Good afternoon, Chamber members. For those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Angie Talent. I'm the broker owner of Summers Sotheby's International Realty and the 2021 chair of the Greater Fairbanks Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to take a moment, as we do each week, to thank our executive partners whose logos you saw on the screen before we began our program today. These businesses provide the foundation that makes our work possible here at the Fairbanks Chamber. These businesses also support the Chamber by sharing knowledge and awareness that drives and helps shape our advocacy efforts and create awareness for our economic strength for Interior Alaska. You can see our executive partners on the screen, and a full list can be found on our website. I'd also like to give a big thank you to GCI for not only powering our virtual presentations, but for being the sponsor of our diversity and inclusion series that we are continuing today. So thank you very much, GCI. And now I'd like to welcome Katie online to help us recognize our new and renewing members. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you, Angie, and welcome Chamber members. I would like to say thank you to the following renewing members: Three Tier Alaska Inc., Blood Bank of Alaska, Crescent Electric Supply Company, IBEW Local Union 1547, Interior Alaska Cancer Association, Quality Sales Food and Service, Sagio, Soli Consulting, Tanana Yukon Historical Society, University Chevron Napa Auto Care Center. Thank you for your renewing membership. We're happy to have you. And a big thank you to our members who joined our 110% club this past week. Those are Arctic Office Products and Fulford Electric. Thank you very much. These members contribute above and beyond their membership dues to help us with our advocacy actions. And for our membership minute today, I want to let everyone know that we have a page on our website dedicated to our diversity and inclusion series. You can access it through the banner at the top of our website on our homepage, and there you can access all of our past series presentations from this year, to include the business case for racial equity from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, employment for returning citizens, life after incarceration with the Department of Labor and the Reentry Coalition, and most recently, the Equality of Opportunity Initiative, which was a presentation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. So we hope that you'll all check it out. Thank you, and back to you, Angie.
Thanks, Katie. So now time for my board chair report. Last week, some of our members got a sneak peek at the expansion of the Chief Andrew Isaac Health Center on Cowell Street. This project started in April of 2020 and will continue to early 2022. Chamber member Mike Davis of Gem Company provided a tour to our Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. They learned about what it takes to construct a building with over 900 pounds of steel, why some fireproof lumber is red, and how the air circulation system in a healthcare facility can help to prevent infection. It looks like this new building will be an amazing addition to the TCC healthcare facility when it's finished next year, and we can't wait to see the finished product. Also, I'd like to continue to encourage all of our members to support our sister organization, the Fairbanks Economic Development Corporation, in their request to the Fairbanks North Star Borough for budgetary support in 2022. FEDC has contributed to the Fairbanks economy by bringing together stakeholders on issues ranging from agricultural to energy, air quality to support for our military community. The budget request will support these efforts into their future. You can provide a testimony between now and May 6th, or tune into the Borough Assembly to do an oral testimony. And also now I'd like to welcome back Katie to give a Chamber staff report.
Thank you again, Angie. Janelle is enjoying a well-deserved vacation, so I get to share that we are pleased to announce here at the Chamber that Golden Days will take place on Saturday, July 17th through Sunday, July 25th this year, and we invite the community to embrace this year's theme with us and dream golden dreams. Our three main events will happen as follows. The Grand Reverse Parade, presented by Kinross Fort Knox, will take place on Saturday, July 24th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Tanana Valley Fairgrounds. Like last year, we invite local organizations to create floats and to set up along the route, and the community will drive through. This was a great success for us last year, and we look forward to it being an even bigger success this year. The street fair presented by Foundation Health Partners is coming back to downtown Fairbanks. It will be going strong from noon to 7 p.m. on Saturday, July 24th as well. So there will be plenty of opportunity to come and shop the great vendors, enjoy delicious food, and hear music from the ConocoPhillips stage. We will be closing off a larger area to encourage everyone to spread out and keep our community safe. Our annual rubber ducky race presented by Sunrise Bagel and Espresso will be taking place on Sunday, July 25th at 10 a.m. 8,000 ducks will race from the Wendell Street Bridge all the way down to Cushman Street. If your organization is interested in having a float, a street fair booth, or donating a rubber ducky prize, forms are now live on our website at fairbankschamber.org/goldendays. And if you have any questions about our events this year, please call our office at 452-1105 or email Jackie. And as the snow melts, I know that you have all noticed the trash magically appearing on the sides of the road, which means it's time to get ready for Golden Heart Cleanup Day. Cleanup Day will be on Saturday, May 15th. This year, and bag pickup and registration will be starting on Monday, May 3rd. Due to a statewide shortage of those iconic yellow bags, we want the community to know that every bag is a good bag. There will be a limited supply of yellow bags given out, as well as non-yellow bags that have been donated by Costco and other community members. So thank you, Costco. And for bag pickup locations and other details, please visit our website and follow the brand new Golden Heart Cleanup Day Facebook group. And for more information on all of our events and programs, please visit fairbankschamber.org. Back to you, Angie.
Thanks, Katie. So now for our main presentation. Last year, our board of directors started an ongoing conversation about how the Fairbanks Chamber can address the topic of diversity and inclusion in a business context. Since this is an issue that we have not officially tackled in the past, we recognize that the last year of discussion and protest provided an opportunity to ask what we want to say as an organization. So this year, on the fourth Tuesday of each month, our weekly business presentation will address how and why businesses can become more inclusive of diverse perspectives and populations. Today, we are happy to have Ayu Kusatuk and Melissa Borton from the First Alaskans Institute, and I would like to invite them to introduce themselves. Thank you, Ayu and Melissa, for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Angie. Uvlulotak. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ayu Kusatuk. I come from Ungalaklik, also known as Yunlakleet, which is on the western coast of Alaska along Norton Sound. So if you're not familiar with where that is, when the Iditarod hits the coast and then goes up and over to Nome, right when it hits the coast is my home community. I'm currently zooming in from Dagayakak, also known as Anchorage, traditional lands of the Dena'ina peoples. So I get to live, work, and raise my children on Dena'ina lands as a guest here. I'll hand it over to Shilukanatanishkak to introduce yourself.
Chamai, everybody. We Shilukanatanishkak up to Hutna, Melissa Borton. I'm FAI's Indigenous Advancement Director, and I've been with the organization since December 2019. I'm zooming in from the beautiful island of Kodiak, which is way souther than you guys are. I wish it looked as pretty as it does in the picture behind me today, but it doesn't, unlike the rest of the state, I hear. I was born and raised in Kodiak. My family is originally from the Bristol Bay region as well, so I am a commercial fishing baby. It is nice to be with you all today.
So, our time with you is gonna fly by. So we wanted to just give you just a little bit to think about, a little bit to know about First Alaskans and our work, especially as related to the diversity, equity, and inclusion work that the Chamber is involved in, which I'm very happy to hear that the Chamber is engaging in that work. It really is incredibly important and critical work, especially in this time that we're in. So we're really happy to be here with all of you and just share a little bit. So if you're not familiar with First Alaskans Institute, we are a statewide Alaska Native nonprofit. We're a 501c3. We're currently based in Anchorage, but we do our work statewide. our organization. We just passed our 20-year anniversary last year, so in a way, we're still a fairly young organization. Our team is pretty small but mighty. We get to do some really incredible work with and for our community. Some of the work that we've done with folks in Fairbanks includes with the Chamber. We've done work with Leadership Fairbanks for many years. That was a lot of fun work we got to do together. We've worked with the North Starborough School District a couple of times around diversity, equity, and inclusion work, specifically around racial equity. We've hosted our Elders and Youth Conference in Fairbanks in conjunction with the AFN convention multiple times. We actually love it when our Elders and Youth is in Fairbanks for lots of reasons, including the great hospitality of Fairbanks. So thank you for that. We also have a lot of partnerships in the community, including with UAF and other community organizations. We've hosted civic engagement training there and the like. So while we're based in Anchorage, we do get to do a lot of work in Fairbanks as well. So just want to give a shout out to all of our partners up there. So a little bit about First Alaskans. As I said before, we're a 501c3. Our vision is progress for the next 10,000 years. This really acknowledges that our peoples have always been here and we always will be here. We are the first and forever stewards of this incredible state that we call home. Sorry, my children are tiptoeing behind me. We know that Alaska is a native place. It always has been and it always will be. There is geographic intelligence that is encoded within our native people's knowledges, within our languages, that is irreplaceable. Because we have over 10,000 years of stewardship in this place, we know that it's one of the richest resources that Alaska has. We have engaged in work around issues of social justice and racial equity for over a decade. I heard that you have funding support from the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. That really made my heart sing to hear that, because we began engaging in this work around racial equity and justice with the W.K. Kellogg Foundation on my first day at First Alaskans, actually, in 2010 was the beginning of our working partnership with them. And I would say a lot of the work that we've been engaged in has been about initially recognizing that most of us aren't raised learning how to have good, respectful, not right now, conversations around racial equity and social justice. So our first, I'm getting distracted by my littlest one, I'm sorry. We wanted to reset the conversations on race and race issues in Alaska by first having them. So we proactively, okay, I need 1 second, sorry. Okay, thank you. Go on. Welcome to my home, everyone. Okay, we wanted to host conversations on race and racism in a proactive, respectful way that invites everyone into the conversation. And those conversations based in our Indigenous ways of knowing about how to have respectful, important conversations that honor each of our lived experiences and our lived truths really has been foundational to the work that we've been able to do together. So we would absolutely invite those who are interested in learning more to reach out to us. But for now, because our time with you is so short, we thought that we would use the opportunity to just kind of engage a little bit in the kind of work that we do instead of just talking about it. One of the ways that we do that is by making sure that we're very intentional about building shared language about the issues that we're talking about. So DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is kind of a buzz right now. It has been for a few years, I would say, especially in the last year or so for sure. And even so, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what those terms actually mean. And an important part of being able to do this work together is making sure that we're on the same page about what it is that we're talking about. So I will invite my sister, Shilukanat Tanichkak, to lead us into breaking down a little bit of the difference between one of those terms, equity. So when we talk about equity, many people will conflate it to mean equality, as if those are the same things. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about how they are very different and why that differentiation is important. Shilukanat Tanichkak.
Yeah, Kuyanak. And as we go through and do racial equity dialogues throughout the state, just to give you an idea, this is a small little window into what we do in about a two-day training. And are you going to pull up the slides, Ayu? Excellent, Kuyanak. So equality and equity. Equality really means ensuring that everyone has the same opportunities and receives the same treatment and support. And equity means giving people what they need. The difference between the two really does have to be emphasized. Although both promote fairness, equality achieves this through treating everyone the same regardless of where they came from, how they started, or what their need is. While equity achieves this through treating people differently depending on those different perspectives and situations. If equality is truly the goal, then equity is how we get there. This original graphic that's been around for many years, and I'm sure many of you have seen it floating around the internet, is problematic for many reasons. First of all, it doesn't really allow us to understand the conditions that created the inequity in the first place. For example, 2 of the 3 people appear to be younger in age. We have to assume that they're children. And that gives you the impression that the only reason that they aren't able to succeed in this picture is due to their age. Also, each of these individuals are all brown-skinned. It doesn't help to actually understand how some succeed more than others. Next slide. So this slide, the inequality slide, is actually an adaptation of the previous slide. Dr. E.J. David is I know Ayu can introduce him much better because she's worked with him for many, many years, but he's a brilliant man. And he is Filipino. He immigrated to Alaska when he was just a teenager, somehow ended up in Utqiagvik. So Ayu, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Married a beautiful woman up there, and they have Filibascan children. Is that correct? Is that how he refers to them? So he looked at this original slide deck of equality and equity and wanted to create an edited version that helps us understand how we've come to be where we are today, and that acknowledges that this country was built on stolen land, on the backs of stolen African and Indigenous labor. There's nothing accidental about today's inequality. Quite literally, Black and Indigenous people have had dirt taken from them to profit white men, and to a different degree, white women. This picture is a reflection of the intentional systems of oppression established in the past that still continue today. Next slide. If we use an equality approach and we give everyone the same thing, we can see what happens. When we treat everyone the same, recognizing that in reality, not everyone started from the same spot, the inequality continues to persist and even worsens over generations. If we don't acknowledge that not everyone started from the same space, we won't reach the outcomes that we want, which is a truly equitable place. Standardized testing is a perfect example for that I like to highlight, because standardized testing is designed to treat everyone equally across the board, regardless of even something as simple as what their testing skills are. Everybody Everybody responds differently to texting and education, and standardized testings don't really give us the full picture of how our children are being educated. Next slide. So the equity slide, if we understand that some of us have been actively disenfranchised in order to benefit others, and we seek to reckon with this and heal from it and make it right using an equity approach, that's how we will truly become equal. Equality has never existed in our country as it currently is. From the beginning of founding of this country, it's been inequitable. So we carry a responsibility to understand how this shows up in our work day to day, and to ask ourselves if we are unintentionally perpetuating the current inequity, and identify where we can disrupt this. An example is that diversity is more than just browning up your workforce or your leadership. In order to be inclusive and move towards an equitable place, it takes expansion of thought and inclusion of different perspectives. Final slide, which is our summary slide and gives you an idea of how to get a hold of us. Ayu, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, that was great. It's a lot of content to do in a very nutshell version kind of way. However, we felt that it was really important to, like I said before, build some of that shared language. Dr. E.J. R. David, who Shilukanaat Tanichkak credited for the creation of those graphics. If you're not familiar with him, I highly recommend that you seek out his work. He is a professor at UAA. He's also a published author. He has published multiple works, mainly centering on issues of internalized oppression, the psychology of internalized oppression. So for peoples of color, specifically Filipino peoples, but also Indigenous peoples and other BIPOC peoples. How we internalize oppression and how that shows up. When he created the graphics that we utilize in our presentation now, it accompanied an article that he wrote in Psychology Today, which we are going to share the link to that article in the live stream, where he was essentially breaking down in further detail what the difference between equality and equity is and why he felt the need to revamp the graphics in order to use it as a teaching opportunity. Because, you know, our education system really doesn't prepare us well for understanding how to have these conversations, and quite often doesn't prepare us with the information or the history from Indigenous or Black people's perspectives in order to prompt these kinds of conversations about how we're not talking about ancient history here. These are policies and practices that were put into place that continue to manifest today. And it's really important for us to know that, so that when we're addressing the challenges that are in our communities, we understand the context that created those challenges. Because so often in our country, we are taught that all men are created equal, everyone has equal opportunity to achieve the American dream, everyone can succeed equally if only you try hard enough. You may have heard it or even said it, I know I have in the past. If you try hard enough, you can do it, kind of like the bootstraps. If you just pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, you can achieve. But we need to be able to have our eyes open to the ways that our systems and the structures that we operate in were built in a time to specifically uplift specific parts of our population and actively disenfranchise other parts of our population, our Indigenous and our Black peoples specifically, but also peoples of color. There are so many stories, there are so many points in history and of policy that we could go through, and we often do in the trainings that we offer, and I know that many others do as well. Based in Fairbanks, Native Movement is another organization that does like decolonization training, and they they engage in kind of like a walk through history and kind of contextualizing in that manner as well. So I guess one last thing I'd want to say, and then I'd hand it back over to Shilukana Tanichkalka in case there's anything that you would want to say also, is that some of the questions that we encounter when we're having conversations about the difference between equality and equity, I think it comes with heartburn associated with that last slide, the equity mindset, where everyone is standing on equal ground. Kind of this idea that in order to make things equal, we're going to have to take away from someone. And I definitely understand where that perspective comes from. I would also say that I think that kind of illustrates a difference in worldview a little bit, because from a Western perspective of equality, so often it's kind of viewed as a zero-sum game, right? There's only so much equality to go around. So in order to make sure that everyone has equal access to it, someone has to give something up. But you may have seen that meme that's like, equality doesn't have to take away from you, it's not pie or something like that. The way that I like to think about equity is that if we shift our thinking from like this zero-sum game, there's only so much power or influence or ability or success to go around. If we think of equity as a mindset of abundance, where each and every person can bring the fullness of who they are into all of the spaces that we are, that the knowledge, the brilliant knowledge that is encoded within our diverse people's histories, ways of being, knowledge of relationship with each other, systems of governance, systems of relationality, philanthropy. Like, there are so many abundantly rich ways of seeing our world and operating in our world that it could be better informed if we all had the opportunity to be able to bring that abundance. I'll give an example that really helped me think about that. I imagine that some of the folks who are listening in are parents. I don't know about you, but when I had my oldest son, it changed my entire life. I didn't even know it was possible to love another human being as much as I love my son. Like, it felt like this unfathomable experience of loving another human being, and it changed my life. When I became pregnant with my second son, you know, what's making me tell you this story is that actually my second son had a birthday and we were having this conversation, and he was kind of teasing me. I have 4 children. I don't think I mentioned that in the beginning. So I have 4 kids. So my second son, it was his birthday and we were driving to school, and he was kind of like mentioning something about like, oh, you've got to have a favorite kid or kind of thing, whatever. So that's how the conversation started. So I told him how when his older brother was born, how, you know, I had never realized how much I could love another human. And that when I was pregnant with him, I was worried. I was a little worried because I couldn't imagine that it was even possible to love another person as much as I loved his older brother. And it was something that I was a little anxious about. And I could tell, you know, we're driving to school, I could tell he's kind of like, oh boy, where are we going with this? And I was like, but do you know what happened when you were born? I said, what? He said, it was like my heart expanded. Suddenly, I had a new standard for how much love it was possible for my heart to hold. I didn't even think it was possible to love anyone as much as I loved your brother. And then suddenly my heart expanded to love you that much. And it was incredible. And so he was really quiet. And I told you I have 4 kids. So we're driving and he's like, man, your heart must be really big now. And he's right? If you're a parent, you understand that. You understand that you didn't have to give up some of your love for one of your children in order to make room for another child. It doesn't work like that. It's abundance. So what would it look like if we could invite that abundance of thought, that abundance of innovation, that abundance of diverse strengths that are inherent within the diversity of our peoples? We love to talk about how diverse Alaska is, but does our leadership represent that? Does the way that we conduct business represent that diversity? Does the way, like the example that Shilukanatanechkak shared, does the way that we school and measure success for our children in school, does that represent that diversity? These are all questions that we hope that you can be kind of pondering on. And as you're going about your work and about your business, I hope that it gives you some food for thought when it comes to thinking about the opportunity that exists within tapping into the biggest strength that we have, and that is our diversity. So that's all we wanted to talk with you guys about today. We would welcome any questions or conversation that folks want to have. I don't know if there are any in the live stream, or we could offer as well that folks can always reach out to First Alaskans Institute if you're interested in engaging in some conversation about what it looks like to potentially do training. What I would say about that, though, I would say, especially in the last year, the demand for our work around racial equity training and engaging in these conversations about decolonizing and indigenizing our work has really expanded exponentially. For us, it's really important that those who are interested in engaging in this journey are about it. For us, that means the leadership is on board with having courageous conversations that are respectful and they're safe spaces for us to have the conversations that we need to in order to understand what's happening within our business, within our organization, within our work, but that they're willing to be open and fully engage in the conversation, and also be open to the shifts that may come to the surface. Like, these are some of the transitions that need to happen. If we truly do value equity, and we truly do value the diversity that exists within our workforce, or that we need to increase, that we need to be willing to really walk the talk. So that's the caveat. If you want to reach out to us and work with us potentially, we are scheduling, mid-year at this point, out through the summer at this point, but that's part of our litmus test. Is your organization and your leadership really on board with having these real conversations? That means fully participating, not just saying, oh yeah, the staff need to go and have this conversation, but really engaging in it and being willing to and open to the conversation and moving the dial on equity. It really does take all of us, and each and every one of us has both gifts to contribute to the effort and a responsibility to it. So I think I've talked enough. Katie, do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you both, Ayu and Melissa, so much for investing the time to share with our membership. This is powerful and important conversations that need to be had. So thank you for engaging with us. We did have One question come through the chat here so far, and it's from one of our members who manages an engineering firm, and he asks, how can I ensure our recruiting and hiring process is equitable to all potential candidates? Are there common practices our industry gets wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. She's looking at Tanishka. Do you have expertise in the engineering realm that you'd want to lend to that, a response to that? I'm thinking on it.
I can't say I have expertise in the engineering realm other than I know many of them. And I also believe that I know way too many engineers, actually, now that I think about it. And Alaska Native people tend to flock towards that industry. So the good news is there shouldn't be a shortage of at least Alaska Native engineers in the state. I also know that there are several of our Native corporations and universities that have fellowships and internships around the engineering field and training for that. So I would definitely encourage organizations to reach out to some of those organizations and create partnerships in order to really bring up that up and coming workforce as well, and bridge some of those gaps, because those partnerships are important to develop and maintain. As far as how to make your hiring practices more equitable, one of the things that we do at First Alaskans Institute is we really tackle our hiring process as a team. We have multiple interviews. We start off with what we call a coffee time, and it's really just a couple people, and it's very informal. And of course, in every stage of the interview, we respect HR laws and the discriminatory questions and things like that. We never cross those boundaries. But we have informal conversations at first to just sort of get an idea of the person's personality, whether they mesh well with our personality. And we have very honest and transparent conversations about what it's like to work for our organization. Because as IU mentioned, we're a small staff and we do a lot. And so we aren't clock punchers. They have to know that coming into it. Then when we get to the actual interview, we invite everyone on our team to participate if they want to. They don't all want to. But from not just leadership, even some of our support staff have that opportunity to engage with the interviewee up front, to build relationship, to determine their fitness in the organization. And, we really feel like that team approach brings interviewing into a different realm. IU, is there something you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of rolling around. Those were great examples. I was kind of rolling around in my mind. I think that there are so many levels to that. Part of it is outreach. Like so often we spread the word through the familiar channels, the places where we know folks, we've already networked with them, or we already know, we've already built relationship with them. And I would say maybe too often those are channels and networks that look like us. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity to expand our own comfort zone of familiarity. And so it may be tapping into groups or other network channels that you haven't built relationships with in order to help recruit in that way. Something I guess I would say about that is that it's related to something that you said, Chulukanat Tanichkak, when you said that it's not just, diversity is not just about browning up the workforce. It's also about making sure that when you hire peoples of color, that it is a welcome and safe place for them to be. I think so often we're really well-intentioned, and one of the ways that we can be well-intentioned is by believing that color blindness is actually the standard that we should be reaching for. Like if we can just get to a point where we don't see color, we'll be good, because then we're just treating everyone equally, and then everyone has that equal opportunity. But that's part of the problem in color blindness, is that you then are not able to see the ways that some are more actively disenfranchised than others and have a higher uphill battle when it comes to achieving at the same levels. And so I think part of that is holding up that mirror within your organization. And I'm not just speaking to the person who was speaking about engineering, but just for any organization, holding up a mirror and, you know, asking that question, like, is this a welcoming and safe place for BIPOC peoples or other vulnerable populations? Can they see their home here? Do we make it possible for everyone to be able to achieve their full potential here? Or are there ways that we are doing business that are making it more difficult for some than others? Those are some of the things I was thinking about. So in terms of like outreach, the channels that we are engaging in, making sure that the place of business is a welcoming and inclusive and safe place. Yeah, those are some of my initial responses. I feel like there was one other thing I was going to say, but maybe it'll come back to me. Were there any other questions? And Katie, would you mind pasting them in the chat as well so I could read them instead of just here?
Oh, absolutely. So I believe you just actually addressed the most recent one that came through, which was, what do you recommend as a first step for a racially homogenous and well-intentioned small organization to take? But I feel like you just addressed that. But if there's anything more that you would say to that point, that was another question.
Yeah, well, just a couple thoughts. I think holding up that mirror, I think it's a great practice anyway, but holding up that mirror and asking, why is it racially and ethnically homogenous? Am I more comfortable with it that way? Why am I more comfortable with it this way? Are there trust issues that I have? Are there assumptions that I'm making? Are there, is it just unknown? You know, like what are some of the biases that may be informing how we've come to surround ourselves with people who look and think like us or have the same experience as us? I think it represents a really good opportunity for some of that self-reflection. I would also say that, you know, say you took my advice and you diversified your channels for recruitment and you're like pushing this job announcement out and you're like, oh yeah, this job announcement's great. You know, we're putting it out in front of all of these people who may not have seen the opportunity before, and then you still don't get diverse candidates. I think that that could also present another opportunity for self-reflection in wondering why maybe peoples of color or BIPOC peoples or other vulnerable communities don't feel that's a safe place for them, or don't feel like it's a place that they could contribute their best work, or don't know that they could thrive or move up. Like that could be a signal that offers that opportunity to question that. Yeah. The other, and I think Shilkanat Tanichkalki, you were kind of speaking to this as well, to the earlier question. Intention versus impact. One of the ways that shows up is in the requirements for a job. So you may say, for us to hire the best HR, I don't know, I don't have a good example right off the top of my head, but say it's a recruiter. You want to hire for a recruiter. In order for us to hire the best recruiter that we have, we need them to have this degree with this credentialing and this many years of experience. And you may be like, we're just going to put it out there. It's equal, you know, so anyone who has this much education, this much experience, etc., and this credentialing can apply for the job. Your intent may be that you want a diverse population of folks who meet all of those qualifications to come to you, but the impact may be that achieving that degree, seeking out and earning those credentialing, and having the opportunity to gain that much experience is actually much more difficult for peoples of color for various reasons. And that's part of why it's important to understand that earlier graphic of inequality. Understanding that, there are, as a society, we have privileged some and disenfranchised others. And so we may say, yes, this is equal opportunity, you need to have these things, but the impact may be that it's harder for the communities that you're seeking to diversify your workforce have a more difficult time achieving those. And so it could be an opportunity to think critically about, one, the qualifications that really are actually necessary in order to do the job well. And then how can you be more flexible in your requirements that allows for others who may not have had that opportunity to be able to access it. One of the ways that we have done that is, we outline what we think are the necessary, levels of achievement for higher education, credentialing, experience, et cetera, for our positions. And we add a line that essentially says, applicable experience can be substituted, at our discretion in order to fulfill the needs of the role. So we have an idea of what we think is necessary, but we're also open to understanding that there are all different kinds of life experiences that can help enrich the ways that we do our work. And even just simply adding that line can expand and make more accessible some of these opportunities. So intent versus impact, I think, is another important part.
I'd like to add to that a little bit, Ayu, because it's not always somebody's situation that is an impediment to whether or not they can be successful in a university program. Everybody learns differently, and our childhood's intergenerational trauma from multiple generations could impact our learning ability. So I'll just use myself as a perfect example, because when I came to interview for this job, my dear sister, whom I love and is one of my best friends, was like, "You have a degree, right?" I said, "No, I don't." I wasn't, don't get me wrong, I was very smart. I just did not like sitting in classrooms. And so it was very hard for me to be lectured to my entire life. And then I got thrown into a family very, very young and had children young, which changes your trajectory. However, and I'm not trying to be boastful, but I've been an executive director of an organization. I've sat on committees for the governor. So I am not without the ability to do the job. I'm without the piece of paper that tells others I can do it. So think about those types of opportunities and life experience that lends itself to people's abilities and skills.
Thank you both so much. I think that was, again, incredibly powerful and eye-opening, and will allow us all to sort of turn that mirror on ourselves and really ask these deeper questions, not just these surface level questions that are floating around in the times we find ourselves in. It goes much deeper. So thank you all for prompting that closer look. So I have in the chat, there's no more questions. There's thank yous from both of the individuals who you answered their questions. And then there was a sentiment of thank you, Ayu, for sharing how it didn't mean that like one person to gain that another would lose, that your story of your children was poignant and touching and identifiable. So thank you. And I think that is all. So I think we will just say thank you so much again for sharing your time, for answering these questions so deeply and thoughtfully. We greatly appreciate your time and your insight and your experience that you shared. So thank you so much. And we will make sure This is going to be a, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Ayu.
No. You're good. I had a thought, and I didn't want to lose the opportunity. While we have folks' attention on the issues of equity, diversity, social justice, etc., I just want to make a plug that First Alaskans Institute has hosted both a racial equity summit and a social justice summit, and we have all of the videos from both of those on our First Alaskans Institute YouTube page. And we highly recommend that you take, it would take a while to go through all the videos, but it would absolutely be worth it. We have all of the plenary keynotes, we have the presentations that are on there. There are multiple videos with Dr. E.J. David, who, we've referenced his work. Please take the time to watch his presentations, as well as the others that are on there. Another one that's coming to mind that I wish all Alaskans watched is the one with Ernestine Hayes, the Tlingit elder and former Alaska State Writer Laureate. Her keynote during the Social Justice Summit was especially poignant, and is one that I think on quite often when it comes to issues of social justice. And so as you're on this journey of thinking through these issues, there are lots of resources that are also available to you, and just didn't want to lose the opportunity to put that plug in. And thank you for allowing us to come and spend time with you. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you both, and we will make sure to share out the links to the website for everyone to be able to get those access to those resources. And thank you both again so much. And we hope to work with you more in the future, and we'll be paying attention to all that comes out of this year, and hopefully it's good things. So thank you so much again. All right, so moving on in the program. We just have some closing remarks. Of course, thank you to Fairbanks Alaskans Institute. As Ayu said, please check out their website and their resources that are available for all of us to learn and take that deeper look. Also, thank you to all of our members of the community who showed up today to join us and engage in this presentation. Thank you for that time and engagement. We hope to see you all next week on YouTube when we will hear from Ryan Anderson of the Alaska Department of Transportation and Public Facilities on their preview of 2021 construction projects in our community. And thank you, Fairbanks. We'll see you next week.